does the American dream yield success? Shout out to Crystal.
What?
I think the American dream yields success to those who at the time are white.
Yeah, my question was kind of similar to that. I said like, who is it attainable for those? Like, is it only attainable for the people that are accepted by society, which is kind of similar to yours, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about like who benefits from the American dream and also like how much.
Well, I think back then it was more like just white people. Like back when there were more like institutional racism and more like actual like you had like it was like weird not to be racist. But I feel like now today it's really like you hear stories all the time about like minorities who come up from nothing, who end up becoming really successful, who just work really hard and end up achieving their dreams. So I think there are certainly situations in which people can be like held back from the American dream because of certain things, certain adversities, skin color, but I still think it's possible for a lot of people, way more than it was back in the day.
I think the American dream often only works for those at the lower income bracket or those who have less to start with, because if you were in the middle class or even in like the upper middle class, the room to go up is a lot smaller, and it's just like naturally the delta would be greater if you just start from nothing.
Do you think that someone who's white passing would have the same would be able to use the American dream, or would they not? Would they be excluded?
So I don't know what white passing means.
I mean,
It's like
yeah.
your skin is
like
it's
Mr.
all
Gregson.
just that.
Yeah, Mr. Gregson is white passing.
But he's still a person of color because he's Hispanic.
So like if you're a person of color but your skin looks white.
Yeah, you look white, and so therefore, like the thing about the thing about color adversity is that people can see that you're not white from like a mile away. So as a white passing American, you get access to white privilege, but you're also still struggling with like cultural adversity.
I don't know what passing.
That was a great question. But coming back to Issa's really good question, I think that someone who's white passing, like Nikhil said, is like kind of in the middle and limbo of it. And on the one hand, like would benefit from the American dream more than a person of color who isn't white passing, but still maybe not as much as someone who was white, because even though today we do this a lot less, but like if you were like applying to get a job or something, a lot of times you have to put down like your race or ethnicity, and obviously you can lie, but back then like there was a lot of like pride in your culture, and by like lying on something like that, you're really like, kind of like renouncing where you came from.
Yeah, like talking about the idea of like your culture, like what it means to like, be a minority. Like my question, like would a colorblind world like be good, or like, would it try to detract from that culture, like that heritage you have?
I don't think colorblindness is a solution to anything, because I think there are two problems with it, and one is that it plays into this idea that we need to be tolerant, not accepting. So to be colorblind means to be like, okay, so if I did see color, maybe there'd be an issue. And so that's one problem with it. And also, that's not to their identity. Like, why are we hiding that? Like, there's, I don't think that's a solution to it.
And that also kind of relates back to your idea, or like the idea that like America should be a melting pot.
Should be melting pot.
It should not, well, I don't think that it should be, but it should not. Instead be like, do you call it a cultural mosaic? So like everyone, if you think about America,
Homogeneous.
America is a country of immigrants. Like everyone in America, unless you're a Native American, came from somewhere else originally. And so this idea that we all came from different places and now we're all American, and that we're all like the same now.
That's a bad idea.
Well, it's that like you and I aren't the same, Jack, and it's like we're all different people.
If you look at the poem, for example, the one we looked at today, the one the one about the name, and how I got that name, that right there exemplifies why the idea of melting pot is harmful. Because homogenizing and having that kind of uniform identity can actually strip away aspects of people's culture. So having this like collection of cultures is a lot more powerful than making everyone kind of change themselves to be American. But my question was, there was this quote. No, sorry.
No, I feel I'm like, so if it's a bad thing to say that everyone is like coming into all as Americans or all equal people, but at the same time it's a bad thing to look at people as different. So how?
Sorry,
No,
you're
that's not it.
Basically, what we're trying to say is that everyone is an individual and everyone has their own individuality. And the idea of the melting pot is that you need to make everyone the same. And obviously, we're not all the same. We're all different people. We all come from different places. We all have different experiences. We all have different like customs, traditions, ideas, and that we should keep that individuality while obviously being American and creating like an American culture. And that should be a part of who we are. But we shouldn't all just renounce parts of our identity that come from a different country in order to be American. Like you should be able to still. Sorry, can I finish up today? No. Okay.
No. We can finish. Do you guys want to finish this discussion tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna finish it first thing tomorrow. Tonight for your homework, you have the 2 readings, civil disobedience, and Martin Luther King letter from a Birmingham jail. Take notes on those, 5 bullet points, 1 discussion question, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Yeah. No. Actually, nice job today, everyone.
Are you wearing it? Sorry, are you wearing it?
I am Roy Lindsay.
Sorry, you're good. I'm like swinging my back.
I have a lot of good questions.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Good job, everyone.
Yeah, and it's not out of like you being just disrespectful, it's just that you want it out, which is good. You're just
I have trouble following some people's thought process.
Yeah.
That's where most of my questions come from. I find it interesting that, so this is like a discussion I was going to bring up to the class, but I think we kind of changed it. So I think I was going to ask, I'm just like
Can you actually say it, because then I'll write it down and we can start with that.
I'm moving around these things. But I was going to say, I was going to bring up, I think it's interesting that it's kind of assumed and it's kind of implied that the American dream is most beneficial to white, cisgender, heterosexual, upper class males. But then you look at the United States and you look at statistics and you see that Asian Americans have a median household income that's $20,000 higher than the average white household. So it's like, okay, but are we gonna say that white people benefit more from the American dream, yet the Asian Americans have somehow got more money? How? It was, even though the American dream was supposed to be more available to white people, how did Asian Americans get so much more money? I feel like that's an example that they're a minority group and they benefited from the American dream and they took advantage of it. And then also you have the Nigerian American community, who is arguably one of the most successful races or cultural groups in America, with I think it's an income of like $57,000 for a median Nigerian American household. So are we to say that they didn't have the same American dream opportunity as white people as well? If so, how did they get that much money? Is it, you know what I mean?
And it's also, Jack, how are we defining success?
Because
We're defining it by money.
That's why I said arguably, because there's a broad definition of success, but it's just, it seems as though everything's kind of boiled down to race when I don't see it like that, because so I thought it was interesting that he said that Asian Americans are still discriminated, they don't benefit from white privilege, they don't get like the same things. And I thought that was interesting because one, I just brought up that the fact that they overall are the most wealthy race in America. And I feel as though the only discrimination that is really evident, that is really like you can see, is the fact that because of affirmative action, they get SAT points taken off of their test, which that's discrimination, but that's not from white people, that's not from the white organization, that's not from white leaders, that's mostly minority groups trying to make things more equal, and in the end, Asians are discriminated against in that sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I find it interesting that it's assumed that since they're not white, they don't benefit from white privilege, but it's because of the people who are opposed to white privilege that they're getting SAT points taken off. That is because of the people who are opposed to inequality in the inequity, or that's what I call it. And those are the people who are taking points off their tests, not the white people.
Right.
That's just, I find that interesting that it's assumed that since they're Asian, they are discriminated against, but there's really no evidence of that other than affirmative action taking points off their SAT points, off their SAT scores.
I think that Keel would have an interesting response to what you said because he actually wrote about this in his paper. So I think that would be interesting to see you two kind of go to kind of have that discussion tomorrow, because I think that you can show him your point of view and that he can show you his. And one thing kind of in favor of what you're saying is that many white Americans feel like they're being stripped of opportunities because more opportunities are given to minorities so that schools can seem like they're diverse.
Mm-hmm.
So a white American who has the same SAT as someone who's a minority is less likely to get in or get money from the school because the school wants to be more diverse. So they're not getting the opportunity to go, and that's where kind of affirmative action and stuff like that comes in.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
I'm not gonna bring this up in classes because they literally just segue into a whole separate conversation.
Please bring it up.
Well, no. This what we're talking about, I'm going to. What I'm about to say, I'm not gonna bring up in class just because
Why?
No, what I'm about to say, it's separate.
Yeah, what are you about to say?
So
is it bold?
it's bold, but in the way that a lot of people at the school will not like.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Say something.
So I find
What are you
it
gonna say?
okay.
Say something, please.
So
I'm a conservative Christian, like nothing what are you gonna say?
So,
what is it? Can I write it down or are you
sure.
uncomfortable?
I just find it interesting that we talk in this class, and everything that we talk about, all our discussions, kind of have that just what's it called? Presupposition, is that what I'm saying? Like they have like all the discussions are based on the fact that white privilege exists, and the way we talk about everything is just an underlying idea. Like it's like, well, this happens, and then they just kind of slip in because they don't get the white privilege. But there are some people, and by some people I mean probably like 2 in this class, who don't think white privilege actually exists. And so this is the idea that we're basing arguments and basing discussions off of the idea of white privilege. That invalidates it for some people who don't think white privilege is actually a thing.
Alright. We can talk about that tomorrow. Thanks for saying that.
Oh, good. Wait,
Talking about that. There's a lot of things that we don't talk about just in general at the school, because I think that we have a problem with feeling like we don't want to offend people. And I don't want you to feel that way in this classroom. Like, I'm not going to say this because I'm going to offend people. Say, like, don't be blatantly disrespectful and say, oh, you suck. But, like, if you feel some type of way, then we can have a discussion
yeah,
about
and the
it.
only reason why I didn't bring this up is because we were kind of talking about like the poem, the one Friday.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking about this, and if I brought up this, it would just segue into a whole discussion on whether or not white privilege exists. Which I would be happy to have that discussion, but it's really not relevant to what we're talking about. So I was like, why would I bring that up and just completely take the class off track? Like that's not really
True.
You know? So yeah, that's
Thanks
what I
for
have to
chatting,
say.
Jack.
Yes, ma'am. I will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. That was great. how do I cut this thing off?